Hey guys, as you can see and hear, I am a little under the weather, but I'm not going to let that stop me from making sure to bring the content that you guys have been requesting. And shout out to all of you who have been requesting topics. It's because of you that I forced myself to come on camera tonight. Don't you feel so good about that? It's your girl G, the Puerto Rican podcast princess, your favorite baby mama in the building. Let's get into tonight's episode. Whew. So I had to bring my boo blanket out. It's October. You guys know this. I film these on Mondays, like very last minute, just so I can like try to catch certain things. So y'all are really, really liking the current event style type of podcast. And I've been getting more feedback from you guys than ever before about things that you want me to cover. Now, I will say this, today's topic, since I didn't do a trending topics episode last week, is maybe not right on point for everything that's happening this exact week. However, these are things that you guys wanted me to talk about, and they're kind of an extension to things that we've covered in previous episodes. So, a follow up, if you will. And we're going to start it off with Bad Bunny. You guys know how excited I was about Bad Bunny in the halftime show. And although a lot of you are trying to still cancel this man, and scare him with threats of ICE being outside of the Super Bowl arena, etc., and so on. Yeah, we're about to get into all of that because you guys want me to. Okay, so this is a continuation, and then I'm gonna leave it alone until maybe closer to when he's actually going to be performing, or if there's some major change like them ending up canceling, which we're not going to put that in the air. We're going to wish that that doesn't happen, especially now, because I feel like it's a matter of principle. So you guys wanted me to react to a lot of different takes about these celebrity responses to Bad Bunny coming on as the Super Bowl guest. And I don't have time to get into every single one of the ones, but one in particular that apparently is going pretty viral right now is Eric Dickerson. He got stopped outside of an airport by a TMZ reporter. And I just want to get into this video really quickly and give my thoughts on that and one other, I think, and then we will be on to the next topic. Let's see here.
Let's talk about the Super Bowl halftime show. There's all this controversy over it. However, what do you think musically? Do you think it was a good choice?
Well, first of all, I don't even know who the hell the guy is. I've never heard of him. I'm not as big into music. You know, what's his name?
Bad Bunny.
What the hell is Bad Bunny sing? I don't know what.
I don't know any songs myself.
I don't know one of Bad Bunny's songs, but if Bad Bunny don't like the United States, keep his ass where he at. Don't come on here singing. I'm not surprised they're not going to do something like this. You know, that's how they got that political crap. They like they good guys, and they not. But, you know, Bad Bunny, keep his ass. Where's Bad Bunny from?
He's from Puerto Rico.
He's from Puerto Rico. You don't want to. If you don't like the U.S., keep his ass over there.
Apparently, well, Puerto Rico is part of the U.S.
I know, but still, if you don't want, he don't like the U.S. I mean, don't come in and perform.
A lot of people, parents are kind of up in arms because some of his content's kind of adult.
Yeah.
He talks about partying, women, this and that. You know, what do you make of that? Is that okay?
Well, I mean, what songs don't? What about the rappers? I mean.
Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and stop there because I think that's pretty much the gist of it. And I don't need to hear anything else. A lot of people have the same sentiments as Eric, which confuses me. I mean, first and foremost, he didn't know who Bad Bunny was, as most of the people who have an issue with Bad Bunny performing. A lot of you didn't even know who he was before that, and that's part of your point of contention. But let's not forget that we've had artists like Jennifer Lopez and Shakira grace the stage of the Super Bowl halftime show, and no one cared about that. I don't even think anybody bat an eyelash at either one of them performing. Is it because they're women? Is it because of or let's be real. And although he mentioned the fact that the NFL is doing things that are political, this was Rock Nation's collaboration with the NFL who decided on this, and that has much to do with trending artists and the amount of album sales and everything else that Bad Bunny has done as a musical artist than it would anything politically. And I don't think people realize that. But anyways, Regardless, I strongly feel like if you don't know who the fuck he is, then you shouldn't be speaking on it. Radical concept. I know. Let's get into the next clip.
The NFL just chose the Bad Bunny Rabbit or whatever his name, this guy who hates ICE. He doesn't like you. He accuses everything he doesn't like of racism. Do you think maybe we should just kind of entertain blowing off the NFL, like a boycott or something along those lines? This guy does not seem like a unifying entertainer, and a lot of folks don't even know who he is.
I never heard of him. I don't know who he is. I don't know why they're doing it. It's like crazy. And then they blame it on some promoter that they hired to pick up entertainment. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And while we're at it, I'd like them to change the kickoff rule, which looks ridiculous, where the ball is kicked and the ball is floating in the air and everyone's standing there watching it. It's ridiculous. It's not any safer than the regular kickoff. I think it just looks so terrible. I think it really demeans football.
Okay, I can't look. He doesn't even know who Bad Bunny is. Are you seeing the theme here? So what are you mad about? Y'all don't even know who it is. Y'all aren't familiar with your own country and the fact that they own an island. And you do you see the theme here? And this is why I said some things are better left just not continuing to talk about, because once things get to a certain level of ignorance, it's just you can't argue with that level of ignorance. Like what? Listen, despite all of that, Bad Bunny is still set to perform, still unbothered, and he's still making history. Meanwhile, the people mad about it are turning into walking think pieces about why representation triggers them so much. But you know what's even wilder is the fact that the government officials seem to have more to say about Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl than they do about actual government matters. AKA, what the fuck is going on in government? Y'all, I promise we're not going to live here too long. We're not, because seriously, I can't even wrap my head around it anymore. It's a full-blown circus where senators are dissecting the Super Bowl performance more passionately than addressing Epstein files or why the National Guard is being sent to Chicago. Where's the priorities, people? Where are the priorities? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, these viral clips of Pam Bondi at this oversight hearing will put it into context better than my words ever could. All right, so let's take a look at this.
Were you consulted by the White House before they deployed National Guard troops to cities in the United States?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House.
You won't even say whether you talked to the White House about this?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House with you, Ranking Member.
I noticed that. What's the secret? Why do you want to keep this secret? The American people don't know the rationale behind the deployment of National Guard troops in my state. The word is, and I think it's been confirmed by the White House, they are going to transfer Texas National Guard units to the state of Illinois. What's the rationale for that?
Yeah, Chairman, as you shut down the government, you voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
I've been on this committee for more than 20 years. That's the kind of testimony you expect from this administration. A simple question as to whether or not they had a legal rationale for deploying National Guard troops becomes grounds for a personal attack.
She got a little spicy dicey there. And if you don't know, I can't find the clip, but there was also a viral photo going around from a photographer that was there at the hearing where he zoomed into her folder and she had pre-written clapbacks, for lack of a better word. She had pre-written insults for these people. And if you look at if you run it back, that video, it almost looks like she references her thing when she says, "I wish you loved Chicago." Girl, is you cool? And it wasn't just that question about the National Guard going to Chicago that she dodged. In fact, Another one of the senators at that hearing actually decided to use his time to list all of the things that Pam Bondi was refusing to respond to. And honestly, like, these clips just leave me with a question of like, how are you able to just not answer these questions? But let's get into this one where he gives a full breakdown of just how much she evaded every single question that they asked her.
I think it's valuable that the American people get a sense of what you've refused to answer today. So these are just some of the questions you refused to answer, or have answered with personal attacks on members of this committee. You were asked whether you consulted with career ethics lawyers, as you promised you would do during your nomination hearing, when you approved the president receiving a $400 million gift from the Qataris. You refused to answer that question. You were asked who or what role you may have played, or who played the role in asking that Trump's name be flagged in any of the Epstein documents gathered by the FBI. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Holman kept the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Holman paid taxes on the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did career prosecutors find insufficient evidence to charge James Comey? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, how are military strikes on these boats in the Caribbean legal? And you refused to even answer that question.
You were asked, law degree,
excuse me. You were asked, did you discuss indicting James Comey with the president? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did you approve the firing of antitrust lawyers who disagreed with the Hewlett-Packard merger? You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you support a restoration fund for violent insurrections to attack the Capitol on January 6th. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you were firing career professionals, career prosecutors, just because they worked on January 6th January 6th investigations. You refused to answer that question. You were asked by my California colleague whether you believe government officials, like immigration officials, have to abide by court orders. You wouldn't even answer that question. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing.
Because what? You see that? That right there is what I mean when I say accountability has left the chat. You've got Pam Bondi doing verbal gymnastics to avoid a single clear answer, and the rest of the room acting like that's somehow normal. And now even Trump himself is out here saying we've taken away freedom of speech. Don't believe me? Just watch.
Only days ago, Nick Sortor was assaulted in Portland by a flag-burning mob, and we've made it 1 year penalty for inciting riots. We took the freedom of speech away because that's been through the courts, and the court said you have freedom of speech. But what has happened is when they burn a flag, it agitates and irritates crowds. They've never seen anything like it on both sides, and you end up with riots. So we're going on that basis. We're looking at it not from the freedom of speech, which I always felt strongly about, but never passed the courts. This is what they do, is they incite. When you burn an American flag, you incite tremendous violence. We have many examples of it, many examples of it, and it's actually down on tape, and you see things happen that just don't happen unless it's the flag that's burning.
Now, it could be that that's not fully what he meant, right? That it's not been fully taken away. But I think that that's the goal, is to start policing into where we just have an illusion of freedom of speech. But the reality is that anything that you say, you know, that they can sit here and dock you for it. And listen, the world's crazy, right? I know a lot of y'all have been asking for me to dive even deeper into politics, but let me be real with you. There is a very real threat that is attached to that. And being Latina, outspoken, and unapologetically honest paints a target on your back. And the constant flood of jaw-dropping commentary from this administration, I think at this point, is more than rage bait. And I'm at a point where I don't want to use my energy towards that anymore. But I promise you, there are countless news outlets in different places where they are breaking down every little bit of what's going on with this administration right now. And to be clear, I feel like a lot of these platforms give more justice to that conversation than I could. And what I mean by that is they're more educated on the topic. They've researched for years and years and years. I've only recently started dipping my toes into what is going on. And I think a lot of us are kind of at that point now with this administration. It's forced myself and so many others who wouldn't have considered voting for next elections, or wouldn't want to talk about these things, or wouldn't be talking about this in their day to day at their house or with their friends. Now, a lot of us are struggling to catch up and educate ourselves. So I am in that boat. I am recently educating myself on a lot of these concepts, and I'm learning something new every day. So as my research goes on, my viewpoints may change. And they may change drastically. So I want to be very careful about the information that I put out there. So I'm only going to be dipping a pinky toe here and there into the political realm when it comes to news and things like that. But look, we know it's scary out there. And I strongly encourage a lot of you guys to do what I'm doing, and that's researching. Take your ego and your pride out of it and look at the facts, and go to sources and sites that are actual valid sources and sites to get your information. Be very leery of just listening to these people on their soapboxes online, myself included, because there could be things that people miss. But I try my best not to. And because it is such it's so multifaceted when you get into politics, and then we're mixing religion and faith-based and all of that stuff into it as well. I just think that those conversations, the deeper portion of them anyways, are better had on different platforms with people who are more educated on that. So hopefully you guys will hear me out. And that takes us over to safer commentary, the star of the show that so many of you guys have requested me talk about. And it's ironically along the lines of freedom of speech. Because even though we're praying to keep our freedom of speech, it is very clear that in the eyes of public opinion, anything we say can and will be used against us, especially if you're a woman, especially if you're a wife. Which brings us to Ayesha Curry. Oh, man. Ayesha, girl, come to the front, because the viewers of Life with G podcast have been asking for me to cover this. So I guess it's your turn. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ayesha Curry recently, it was back in August, she had a interview on the Call Her Daddy podcast, where she talks about her family, her life, etc., and so on. And a lot of people got upset about the commentary. And so I'm going to get into it and share what the viral comment is that has a lot of people up in arms. Okay.
I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I thought I was going to be career girl and that's it. And I had my eyes set on my goals, and I was never the little girl that like dreamt about the wedding dress and all of that. And then it happened so early in my life.
Did you talk to Steph about it?
He tries to resonate with me, but he just can't. And he also comes from a place of like, it's effing stupid. Like, it's not true. So why? And I'm like, but wait, like, listen to how it makes me feel. And he's like, but why does it make you feel like that? It's not real. After we got married, we found out we were pregnant with our daughters so quickly. I didn't even have time to think about what I wanted anymore. It's so interesting. I spent my entire life like trying to work towards something, and then it kind of just disappeared, and I didn't think twice about it. But after my daughter turned 1, I remember there being a shift and being like, I have goals for myself. like this doesn't feel right. I love being a mom, but I love doing other things too. And I need to get my shit together and figure out what that looks like for myself now.
If I have a career and I'm
Yeah.
not home, like did you experience that?
I still experience
Okay.
that. I still experience that. I'm always in therapy talking about this. If you lose all of those things that were in.
Okay, so really quickly, I've tried doing like different versions, refreshing that page pretty often, and for some reason, it's just not cooperating with me. So I apologize about that. But let's go ahead and get into it. You know, she is married to NBA star Steph Curry, and they have what, 4 children now? 4 children. And they got married very young. 22, I believe, is when she said that she got married. A lot of people are comparing her to like Jada Pinkett Smith in the way of like, you're embarrassing your husband, Ayesha. You keep talking about how you don't enjoy being married. Now, I have seen a viral comment from her before where she was on the Red Table Talk with Jada, ironically enough, and she mentioned that she doesn't get male attention and that bothers her and it makes her feel insecure. And I remember hearing about that and being like, huh, like that's a little weird for a wife to be saying on the World Wide Web, on this huge platform. Like that kind of seems weird. But I didn't hold on to it because that's not somebody that I follow. And then now we're doing podcasting, and here she comes out on Call Her Daddy podcast, and she makes another controversial comment about being married again. I wanted to be sure that I understood everything. I had context. So I started researching. All right. So for those of you who don't know too much about Ayesha, let's go ahead and briefly go through her timeline right here. She was born March 23rd. She's from Canada, the Toronto area. She grows up. She's one of 5 children, well-to-do family. It says that her dad was a musician and talent manager, and her mom was a hairdresser and a salon owner. So both entrepreneurs she was raised by. So that's obviously going to shape her. She goes, they leave at around 14 years of age. She moves to North Carolina. This is where she first meets Steph Curry through church. Then she goes later on after graduation to LA to pursue an acting career. She did a couple small roles here and there, but nothing major. Now, mind you, we will never know if Ayesha Curry's success or her career in the entertainment business would be more if she never got married to Steph. We'll never know that, right? It shoulda, coulda, woulda. But it seems like that's kind of where she's living, so it makes us hyper focus on that. And to be honest, I mean, I couldn't get any of these roles. Right? Like I'm not able to go and get any of these roles. All I'm saying is she put in work. She was going for her goals, and then she reconnects with Steph and she gets married. But not only does she get married, she gets married at 22. So she gets married very, very young, as is he. They're both very young. And then Steph's career takes off. It takes off. Now he's this big NBA star. She got pregnant very quickly, from what she says here. And then boom, now she's this big NBA star's wife and mother and of his child and all these things. And you're not even 25 yet. So it is a lot. It is a lot, and I don't feel like people give her grace for that necessarily. Or maybe they do and they're just tired of giving her grace, because now we're about 4 kids deep, right? And you've been with Steph for some time. So Ayesha, why are you talking so much? And that's the mindset of a lot of people, especially the fellas online. They're really not liking her commentary about Steph. So I went ahead and researched the most controversial, or the comments that were getting the most backlash that she has made in a public setting. Back in 2017, there was an incident that a lot of people got offended by on a show called The Real. Y'all can look it up if you want to. Where there was like this guy with no shirt on, came around the corner with champagne for all the ladies, all the hosts for The Real, and Ayesha jokingly acted like she was taking off her ring. Like she literally, like, y'all can find the clip, and she literally was like, she didn't take it off, but she acted like she was gonna take it off. So that created a lot of controversy. Another thing was her at the Red Table Talk, where she talked about her desire for wanting male attention and that it's left her with some insecurities. And then we get into her commentary on the Call Her Daddy podcast. Now, I will say none of these comments technically throw me off, but I think the part that is missing every time when we see these clips is like the portion where she immediately says, "But I'm grateful," or is she talking about her gratefulness for the relationship and her family just as much as she's talking about how she had her own thing and she wished she had her own thing. But even in her commentary on the Call Her Daddy podcast, she openly says, like, I'm in therapy for this all the time. So it's something she's aware of. It's something that she's constantly talking through. So, at least we know it's not just for show. It's not just to embarrass Steph. This is something that she deals with behind closed doors all the time. Now, should she be saying it out loud on a public platform? To each their own, because at the end of the day, she also mentions that she doesn't have a filter. There's nothing that she won't say. So this is something that Steph is aware of. He has publicly defended her time and time again. So I feel like, when you know your person, then you know their intention. And I think that that's where Steph is coming from. But it can be confusing for the outside looking in, especially when we have our own societal norms about what a relationship should look like and how happy she should be, right? Because that's another thing. It would seem that because she is married to Steph, it has opened so many doors for her that she should be grateful. I mean, think about it. He moved quickly. They say all the time when a man knows, they know. He didn't wait long to propose to her, to give her that title of a wife. He didn't create a family to then just leave, right? He waited, got married, then had the child. He's still providing. You don't see him in any cheating scandals or anything like that. Like, he doesn't, by all accounts, he has done everything that he's supposed to do as a man and then some. And I think that's why she even mentions on the podcast that Steph tries to understand her, but it's difficult for him because he doesn't understand it fully. And a lot of us don't. A lot of us don't. And so I started getting into like, well, what has she said positive? Like, let me find the comments where she's really like, no, but like, I love my man and I'm so grateful and all of this stuff, right? So from that same podcast interview, she did say, I'm very grateful for my family. I wouldn't change a thing, of course. Another one where she said, I'm thankful for my family's health, that everybody's healthy. That's something that can be taken for granted. So I'm grateful for that. And yeah, then there's another one where she talked about their vow renewal and how she was so grateful that he picked out all the food and the decorations. Now, I'm gonna be honest, when you read and you look and you research her negative comments about wanting male attention, about how she never wanted to be a mother, how she never saw herself being a wife, how she is upset that she wasn't able to have this big career. I even saw in another interview where she mentioned like how when she first, and maybe it was this one where she said when she first got married to Steph, or when he first asked her that his NBA career hadn't taken off yet, she had thought, based off of what he told her, that he was going to be like a high school basketball coach. She wasn't expecting him to go on. And she even says in the clip, I thought I was going to be the one. And then to have all of that taken away. Again, she seems to put more of an emphasis on what she lost versus what she had. Now, this is not me trying to save Ayesha or her reputation. At the end of the day, her husband still loves her. Her family still seems like it's intact. But in the matter of public opinion, people are feeling like this marriage shouldn't even be a thing anymore based off of her mentality. And that's where I'm going to come in. All right. Because I'm a psych major. I study psychology, and I'm literally listening to this woman. I'm like, there's something deeper. What is the root cause? What is the root cause for her mindset? What is keeping her from, like, obviously she loves her family. Obviously she loves her children. It's not an absence of love, but it is this longing for something else. And that's when I started to get more into my psychology bag and look into some stuff. So I don't know if this is going to give y'all any sort of insight or anything like that. But I will say this. One of her comments that pulled up in her positive gratitude sort of things, it was actually during the Call Her Daddy podcast where she said, I just knew that I loved him. Like when they asked about her getting married so young, when she didn't have these thoughts about doing anything like that before, she said, I just knew that I loved him and I never experienced anything else. So we kind of just dove in. And when I saw this comment, that that's what got me. I said, okay, hold up. I feel like this is where the root cause really is, because when you just dive into something, it's beautiful, it's love, it's invigorating, it's exciting, it's all these things, but it's it's a big decision. Marriage is a big decision. Children, bigger decision. You know what I'm saying? So when you just dive in before you've really had a moment to truly process everything that's going to come into play when that marriage happens, then you kind of sort of build your entire identity around that love, that whirlwind. And there is a term for it. There's a term for it, and it's called identity enmeshment. I can't say it good because my nose is stuffed, but it's where you essentially feel like you've lost your identity because now your identity has become so enthralled with someone else's and the part that you play in someone else's life. And it's this dependency. And this is a young woman who, although she was in love, she still craved that independence. And she also saw her parents be in love, but have their own separate ventures. And I think now, where it's like her accomplishments are tied to Steph, her name is tied to Steph. It is him, him, him. Again, I'm not saying she shouldn't be grateful because I think that she absolutely should be. However, when you start to understand the psyche behind why someone would have this constant mentality of longing, it makes sense. And I did see other commentary of like, if Ayesha was a man and her take was coming from a man's point of view, then people would have less to say about it. And I think that that's true as well to an extent, because I feel like as women, we're expected to be completely okay with our identity being that Susie homemaker, stay at home wife, as long as the husband is doing what he needs to do. And that woman, she shouldn't want for nothing. Now, here's where she kind of loses me. And I feel like that is why she mentions in the Call Her Daddy podcast, she is in extensive therapy. And in her therapy session, she talks about this a lot because it's understandable to feel that way and to feel like, damn, I like lost the opportunity of just like me, just self. But it is now more of an identity issue that is she has done to herself, because he's not keeping her from pursuing her own professional goals and ventures. And it is an assistant. So instead of just, taking it for what it is and being like, okay, it's mine. Yes, he may have helped open the door, but I'm still the one earning the spot. I feel like if you take pride in your work and you're truly doing something that you're proud of, then the work speaks for itself. And then you don't have to worry about people being like, oh, she only, like, genuinely, I know the internet's going to say what they want to say, but you would get less of the, oh, she got this opportunity because she's Steph Curry's wife. And you would get more of the, she got this opportunity because she deserved it. Like, she's got a cookbook. Look, her recipes are actually good. And she did that herself. Fuck what anybody else has to say. It's about you and your self perception. And I think that that is why, like I said, she said that she was in therapy this whole time. So, like, when Ayesha talks about sacrifices or her past decisions, what she's really trying to process, in my opinion, is a version of herself that never got to bloom before she was labeled as Steph Curry's wife. And I don't think that it's a true sense of like, I hate my life and I hate the decisions that I made. But I think it's just this constant what if in her mind of, could I have done this by myself? And I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it because her feelings are valid. But I do, in my personal opinion, feel like if you're in a marriage, especially in the public eye, and you know that this is something that you are constantly working on in therapy, I feel like at that point, like, let the family business be the family business. And not that you don't tell your story, but that you don't skip the part where you are trying to change that mindset because you understand what a blessing you have. Now, and again, 4 kids in, it does kind of make you wonder, like, if after all of these years, 4 kids in, you're still feeling this way, even after pursuing all of your solo career ventures, what is going to be enough for you to feel like it's enough? And then that comes into like the men constantly saying in response to this of like, see, you can give the woman the world and it's still not enough. But again, I really think that when it comes to her, it is a self-identity issue. It is a pride. It is an ego issue. And that's something that she's going to be working on for God knows how long, but I hope that they can figure it out. But I think the most important part about all of this is the fact that Steph Curry still has her back. And despite public opinion, he is supportive of her. They still seem to have a solid marriage and beautiful children that came from it. And that's all that we want is blessings on both of them and their children and their family. And although people love to scream from the mountaintops like, oh, she doesn't deserve him or anybody else would be grateful, I don't think we need to be cheering on any divorces on anyone. I don't think we need to be imposing our views on these couples who are clearly day in and day out still making things work, at least from we can see, right? From what we can see, they're still married, they're still going forward, they have their children, they seem like they have a happy life. So many of us are lacking in that department. So if it works for them, like the people say, you like it, I love it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I'm sorry if it's not exactly what y'all were going to expect me to say in response to that. But hey, these are my reactions. These are my opinions. Hopefully you like today's episode. And if there's any other things that you guys want me to cover, like you did for today's episode, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and email me at lifewithgbaby93@gmail.com with any of your suggestions. And if you or somebody you know wants to be featured on a So You Think You Can episode where we're talking to real people who are doing the damn thing every single day, not just talking about it, they being about it, okay? Please feel free to reach out to me to suggest those or to enter yourself into that as well. Besos, blessings, and have a good night.